can tell you not to sing your stove? Who I can tell you that you're singing off key? You are the dancer, you are not the dancer. You are the song, not the one who sang. Be a beautiful songbird. No, you tell the truth. You tell the truth. No, you tell the truth. You tell the truth.
Welcome, everyone, to Thrive with Morella. This is the show for people who want to thrive, body, mind, heart, and spirit. And I've got a couple thoughts for you before I introduce my guest. If you sit with it, many of us have experienced deep adversities in life, or some of us have. And these adversities sometimes can be so hard that they keep us from feeling lasting joy. We may feel that the joy is just never going to come back, like the tragic death of a loved one or a severe, debilitating health issue that challenges your ability to live a normal life, or maybe a monumental financial setback that you feel you're never going to recover from. And these experiences can be so intense that they can make us feel hopelessly stuck in our despair, in our grief. But what if recovering that joy is actually possible despite all of it? And that's exactly what my guest today will share with us. My guest is Belinda Farrell. She's experienced all of these things. Belinda lost her son to suicide. She also experienced several crippling back injuries, and including being born with scoliosis, which after a while, right, you couldn't stand. We'll get more of her story, but she wasn't able to stand or walk unassisted, and she was able to heal from that. And she also lost all of her money in a Ponzi scheme. And any one of these things might have been completely devastating. But she's here to talk about how she's reclaimed her joy and her love of life and her zest for life. Belinda Farrell, my guest, is a master hypnotherapist. She's an NLP master as well, like me. I'm also a hypnotherapist. She is a Huna practitioner, also a Reconnective Healing practitioner. She's a dolphin swimmer, or swims with dolphins. And she's also an ancient Hawaiian chant singer, which I'm dying to hear. And she's the author of this book, Find Your Friggin Joy, which I had the delight to read this weekend. Belinda, welcome to Thrive with Morella.
Well, I'm just honored to be here, Morella. You're a dynamo.
I am a dynamo. I love doing this show, if you can't tell.
It shows.
So, Belinda, I ask all of my guests just a little tidbit, one little thing of what is one of your personal keys to thriving in life?
I cut cords.
I
cut cords.
You cut cords. And for those who don't know what Belinda means by that, we're going to be getting into it during our conversation so that, you can be curious about what does Belinda mean by cutting cords. So I already asked for your permission and to see if this would be okay. I thought, I would really love to ask Belinda to get us started with one of her ancient sacred Hawaiian chants. And she said that she would. So
I would be honored. This chant is written in the book for those who are drawn to want to learn the chant, and it asks for the darkness to leave, if there's any darkness at all inside, and for the light to come in and surround you with protection. So just take a deep breath. Ai noho ana ke akuya ikanai hele hele. Ia lehia hia he te tio hua hue taua koko. He na kino malui kalani malu e ho. E o holu mahi ana ho kanehi kona kahu. Ho ano.
Wow.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you. My goodness. Wow. Whew, I'm obviously in this space, in this booth where I have a million things going on. And of course, being in the space of being about to interview you, and in listening to you and just letting those sounds come through me, I could feel my shoulders dropping, and just really, really wonderful. So thank you for that.
The chant comes from the heart, because I'm not really a singer, but I chant, and the lineage of all the people that chanted before me are chanting with me. So it's thousands of years of chanters coming through, and it just completely goes to that place where your mind can't reach.
Yeah.
In fact, a yogi once said, if without the chant, your heart becomes as brittle as a leaf in the fall. So you must do something to allow your heart to experience a chant.
Oh yeah, and as you're saying that, what I'm feeling is the fact that our voice is such a constant source of vibration that moves really quickly through our chest. I mean, I've never had this thought until this moment when you're talking about kind of the chanting coming from the heart, and all of the energy of all of the thousands of years that these chants have been spoken, and I'm just feeling the reality that as we speak and or chant, that that's gonna immediately affect our hearts.
Absolutely.
Thank you for gifting us that. Okay, all right, so let's talk about finding your friggin' joy, because I know lots of people listening to this, watching, can use a little bit of the magic and the joy that you bring. I have to say that I really loved reading your book. Let me see if I can stabilize my internet connection. So your book, I felt like I got to know you through your book, and it is energetically, it feels like you do swim like dolphins throughout your book, and it's just so bubbly and really, really light, really wonderful. And so I thought, having experienced you already chanting and just feeling you already, I thought that, for our listeners and our audience in general, that perhaps you can start by sharing with us what it was like for you to be in the deepest of lows, because somebody might hear like, oh, here's this woman who writes this book, Find Your Friggin' Joy. Maybe she was just like, like happy-go-lucky anyway, and I'm different. That where I am is actually really hard. So, can you share with us what that low was like for you?
I've always been a very positive person. I was a stunt driver, even healing my back from debilitating spinal degeneration, all that. But the loss of my son when he took an overdose of painkillers, I didn't think I'd ever recover. It's like you dive into that deep hole, and I've swum in the ocean and you see the black holes there, and it was as though you were just swirling down and nobody was going to catch you. And I stayed there for quite a while, but I had friends that would come over and they would just try to rouse me. And I had this one friend who took me, and I think I mentioned it in the book. She took me to see a movie called The Living Matrix, and it featured Dr. Eric Pearl, who is the one who founded this Reconnective Healing. And we were two people that I didn't know. I knew Lipton, but I didn't know Dr. Pearl. And I saw Dr. Pearl heal this little boy for cerebral palsy without touching him, just moving his hands and then like pulling these frequencies around him. And I just got really excited. Like I was excited when I first learned about Huna 25 years ago or so. And I thought, I have to learn how to. I just said that to myself. So I found a practitioner, and she gave me Huna Reconnective Healing session. And suddenly, she didn't know a thing about me, nothing. She didn't know I'd lost my son. She knew nothing about me, and that's the best way. Because after the session, I felt light again, and my joy came back. And it was like somebody had lifted this heavy blanket and just flung it off of me. And then she gave me the reconnection, which are a series of drawings. It's a 2-day process, an hour each day. And when that happened, a little while, I was told I was going to write a book. Now, I hate writing. I want to go out and play. I don't want to sit in front of a computer banging out words. That just wasn't me. But when that happened and they said, we're going to help you, you're going to write a book, I went, no problem. Okay. And then there was somebody who came and helped organize me, because that's what I really needed, was somebody to say, okay, this chapter's due here, this chapter's due. I needed somebody to come and help me with that. And 3 years later, out pops my book. But I had also lost all my time. I lost my son.
Right.
So I had to sell everything.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed, in order to be worthy of just being here, I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. So that meant I had to keep my health alive and not put a burden on my daughter. So that I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. That was my hugest motivation.
Right.
So I tried to cut cords, because I knew how to cut cords, but it's still, I was in that deep grief, which is just dark. It's just dark. And even going to swim with the dolphins, I swim with them. They get sad, they get, mourning, but then they always come back to the joy. And I've always noticed that they spend time doing their mourning, and then boom, boom, it's out of the water, it's spinning, it's dancing, it's joyful. They allow themselves to grieve, and then there's joy. So, I mean, again, you have to just look at nature to see that we humans keep that grief longer than probably is necessary.
Yeah. And so was it, in your particular case with your grief, do you feel that it was, well, let me not ask you this question, because you've already said that you started cutting cords. So, I know from reading your book that your practice in cutting cords is really part of the Huna practice, a Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono. So can you tell us what brought you to Huna and learning to do this work? What was your draw to Huna?
I turned 40. I was divorced from an orthopedic surgeon. And then I set out to get rid of all my fears. So who best to do that? Tony Robbins, right? And so I started doing this fire with him and ended up becoming a practitioner there for about 5 years. And that's what got me into doing the stunt car driving, because once you've walked on hot coals, you say to yourself, it's a metaphor, if I can walk on 2,000 degrees of hot coals, then what else could I do that I didn't think I could? Race car driving, sure. So I just called a racetrack and I asked if I could, become one of their students, scared to death. And that's how I found out I had talent. And then they hired me to drive for Buick and Cadillac the next year and created a stunt course for me. I mean, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. But I was also involved with hypnosis. As you say, you are a hypnotherapist. Yeah. And the master course was in Hawaii. So here I go to Hawaii. I'm also scared to death of water. Never told that to Tony Robbins because I was embarrassed. Who's afraid of water? I wouldn't even go in a swimming pool. So I go to Hawaii. It's covered by water, right? Surrounded by water. And I have this experienced doing this ha breathing, which is detailed in the book. Deep breath through the nose, glass of water up here, and then ha breath. And so I started doing this ha breathing for about 10 minutes. And then I get this epiphany coming in. It's like the waters parted and all these dolphins and whales started coming in. Well, they never were on my radar. I didn't have any ocean creatures in my radar. I didn't like the ocean. So suddenly I'm looking at all these dolphins and whales, and then at night they've invaded my dreams and they start teaching me how to swim. And I wake up
to swim.
In the morning,
Yeah,
because I'm down there with them. I'm swimming with these dolphins. And I get up and I think they're talking to me. I need to go out and be with them, but how am I going to get to them when I have to go through the water? So I'm going back and forth on this, debilitating thought that I was going to get into the ocean. So I found a friend. He took me in. I grabbed him by the arm because I was so scared. I put a permanent into his arm from holding. We went out past the waves, and big, huge bottlenose dolphin came and just plucked himself right in front of me. And I could feel this download of information coming in. And the fear went away. The fear just dissipated. And then all I wanted to do was be with these dolphins. They came the next day and the next day and rooted me. That's all I can say. And then I had a friend say, you've got to bring people and have them experience this too. So I started having groups come. And I did that for 10 years on the big island of Hawaii, plus another 10 years of taking individual clients. I just got back from being with them.
Yeah, I remember you telling me. And so obviously then in Hawaii, you got connected with Hoonah, and you started studying Hoonah.
I started chanting, and I begged the Hawaiians there to teach me the chants. They didn't want to because I'm a haole, I'm this white girl with no breath. That's what they call a haole. And I convinced them that I was a reincarnation of a Polynesian whatever, and that I've come to, teach the Hoonah and to do the chants. And they believed it because it was true. I mean, I really was dedicated. I have 3 CDs. Chant and Forgiveness has been around the world. I don't know how many times. It's amazing. People learn how to forgive themselves and cut the cords and heal at the deepest level.
Yeah. Yeah, and just your story. I mean, your whole life story, is something I could easily see made into a movie because it has the stuff of magic of like going in the ocean. I've been to the ocean many times. I've never had a dolphin come up and say to me.
I know, my first time, and then there's this big, huge bottle. It's as big as a tank, and he's just there smiling at me, and
yeah.
So it's amazing.
So then in the book, you do a beautiful job of detailing the practice of Ho'oponopono, which I had learned and learned one piece of it a long time ago, actually in my training to be a master neurolinguistic programming practitioner. So, in that context, I learned it, but you really spell out the steps to a much longer process, and that's what you've mentioned from the beginning, the cutting of the cords that you do. So could you share with our audience what is involved in this Ho'oponopono practice and what does it mean to cut cords?
Well, remember when something comes up, when a memory comes up or a feeling and it debilitates you, it's sad, you feel guilty. I mean, you're really just at a wit's end to deal with that. Mind handles so much of it mentally, but the unconscious mind is bringing it up so that you can let it go, put some closure on it. And cutting cords means you're forgiving yourself for the way you're looking at that event or that person. So right away, if you just say the words, I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, thank you. You don't even have to know why you're saying it. You just don't feel good, but you just say that little mantra because you're saying that to your higher self. Everybody's got a higher self. And when you say those words, it nullifies or erases the cord that is connecting you with that event. And imagine that. It just voids it out, and then spirit comes in and fills it with light.
Right.
You feel more light, you feel better, and then you just say thank you. And then I kind of just shake my shoulders like I'm swirling a cutting instrument around me, and then take my hand and then watch them float away. Thank you.
Right.
It's gone. And you do that enough during the day, and you just start to feel good.
And so that's a question that I had for you, is reading your book and reading how you visualize maybe people who have hurt you, or people, everybody in your family or relationships, and, even yourself, and all of these different aspects of your life, and, cutting the energy cords from them if they're not really in alignment with your higher self and all of that. And I have learned that practice of, cutting the energy cord with someone, but as only doing it once. And it sounds through your book and what you're saying that you're doing it every day and maybe multiple times a day. Yeah,
of course. I mean, when do you brush your teeth? Just once, and then not anymore? This is like brushing your teeth. This is the plaque. So every time you have a thought, every thought is a connection. And if you have an investment in it emotionally, you're courting yourself constantly during the day. You're interpreting, oh, do I look okay? Did I say that right? You need to put yourself down there and forgive yourself for all your bad interpretations of you. But yes, everything you touch, everything makes a connection. And it lasts a long time if you repeat it over and over again. That's why the cutting of the cords, I do it every night. Sometimes I do it in the middle of the day. I just want to feel lighter. And that's how you can tell, if you're okay, because then you go to neutral and then you're light again.
Right. And so what I'm hearing from you as you're saying all of this, I'm getting, I think I'm getting it. So what you're saying is, it sounds beautiful, because then what you're doing at the end of the day, it's like you're cutting off all of the attachments, all of the concepts, all of these kind of thought forms, the way we're thinking of things. So in some way, so they can be recreated new, and then you cut them again at the end of the day, the next day, and they can be reborn new. So exactly. I like that. Now, I can imagine someone hearing this, and it has happened when I've worked with someone to cut a cord with somebody else. And so and they might say, well, I don't want to cut that cord. And I could, the question as it's shaping itself for me in how I want to ask you, losing your son. Do you see yourself cutting cords with your son who passed, or not? Absolutely. Or how do you do that?
No, I do, because there's always guilt that festers in, and guilt is a horrible emotion to have, because it's not even real. It just tells your unconscious mind that you've done something wrong. And so then the unconscious will invent a disease or some health problem to show you've done something wrong. It's just taking the cue from you. So I would cut the cords because I realized that he made his own choice. I wish I could have been there for him, but he left the state. He went back east. Had no friends back there, couldn't get the drugs that he needed. He was in the Army, so then he finally ended up in an Army base and got what he needed there. And I think he just gave up. He just graduated from college. So I miss him every single day. I cut cords. I feel his presence. I've talked to mediums that have seen what he's doing on the other side, and he's doing really good work. So, you just try to free yourself from, because you're left down here.
Right.
And he's probably having a great time wherever he is. He got to ride a motorcycle. Didn't get to do down here.
So
been 10 years. It's been hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
And they say time heals, but I'm not so sure.
And so in hearing you talk about it now, what I see is that obviously you're not in any way saying that there isn't missing, that there isn't still the pain, the sadness of having lost him, but that you can still find your joy and live a life of joy in spite of that enormous loss.
Exactly. I have a grandson. I have a daughter. I have a wonderful relationship, wonderful life partner. And I know I'll see him again. He comes in my dreams sometimes too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a veil that separates us from the other side. Some people can see past that veil. And at times I feel like I do, especially when I'm in Hawaii. Hawaii, you dream more. You see more.
I've never been. I'll have
extraterrestrials.
Fun.
Yes, that's another story.
That's another story. So I was also interesting, you mention in your book this practice that you do called Reconnective Healing, which I had never heard of before. So what did Reconnective Healing bring to you beyond the Huna practice of cutting cords and, the Ho'oponopono?
Well, it's an interesting, because Huna is about self-healing. You learn, I teach 4 levels of Huna, and there are 36 symbols. And a lot of these symbols, half of them are good for useful on the earth plane, and the other half are good for the spirit and soaring out into the abyss. But reconnective healing, you do it to somebody else. You have a client and you do it to them, and you find their frequencies and you pull them and you stretch them, and it's almost like you're stretching the frequencies of their higher self. So the higher self can come in and heal at the root level, wherever it is that's ailing them. Some people heal at a deep emotional level. It's the deepest level that will get the physical level, which is the last thing to manifest to heal.
Yeah.
But some people have outstanding healings even at a physical. I can't promise. I don't know what they're going to receive. But that's why it's so... It's really an exciting practice, and the reconnection is a separate thing. That's what got me to write my book. It shows you on your life path, but then what it does is it accelerates you to the next level. So I was supposed to write a book, but I was too lazy until I had my reconnection done. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it. Show me how. Here I am. And the title was there. I woke up and it just all together.
Yeah.
So it kind of reconnects you to the highest level of what your soul is here to do on this earth plane, as best as I can explain it. You only do the reconnection one time in a lifetime, and the cost is $333. One time. That's it. And then that accelerates you onto a different life path. Scary, kind of.
It's scary. Yeah, it's like be careful what you wish for, because when you get it, it might be scary.
And some people, want to hold on to what they're doing now, and the thought of moving to, another path, it's leaving the comfort zone.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple more minutes, and I want to be sure that we've touched on everything you feel is important to talk about or mention when it comes to finding your friggin' joy. And again, my guest is Belinda Farrell, the author of this book called Find Your Friggin' Joy, which you can find online. So have we missed anything important, Belinda, about finding your joy?
Oh, I just think it's so important to just take time, a moment. That's what cutting cords does, is it puts you back into a moment. And then there's nothing else. There's no past, like the frogs. They can't turn back. There is no past. You're just in the present, and you're moving towards the future. And I just find that's exciting. I mean, even the older we get, I never thought I would get this age, but here we are, charging ahead. And you want to do, I want to do so with good health. I want to continue to travel and rollerblade and play tennis and play ping pong and do all that
Of
stuff.
course. Belinda, my goodness, this has been the time has gone by so quickly, but I have loved every minute of hearing your story. I am amazed by anyone who has had the privilege of swim with dolphins, not just one, but multiple times. I have a teensy bit of little, envy, I want to do that too.
Oh, you must do it. It just puts you in a state of unconditional love.
Oh, I can imagine. I
come with somebody you want to fall in love with.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, you will, and so will he.
All right. I will keep that in mind. I'll start making plans, perhaps. Wonderful, Belinda. Thank you so much. This has been such a delight to have you. And again, for all of our audience, my guest is Belinda Farrell, and her book is Find Your Friggin Joy. It's a delightful read. It does feel like you are swimming with dolphins as you read this book. Thank you so much, Belinda.
Mahalo.